Y'all for being here today. This project right here means a lot to me. It's been something I've been working on over the past 2 years, a little over a year. So it definitely means a lot, and especially after stuff that happened last night. Tragic event last night happened. LeBron getting out the playoffs, and y'all pulling up definitely means a lot to me. And y'all being here definitely means a lot to me. All right, though. In all seriousness, we'll begin now. So I'm Ibrahim Traore, and I'm a senior here at McKinney High School. And tonight, I want to share with y'all a journey that started with just a little curiosity, but turned into something much bigger than I expected. So when I first got introduced into the cloud, I had no idea how powerful it could be. But the more I learned, the more I realized the cloud isn't just for big tech companies. It's an array of vast toolkits that anyone can use to build incredible things. So as a result of that realization, I decided to challenge myself. Can I build a real application? Something smart, useful, reliable, efficient, but most important to me, something secure. That challenge became Fusion Logic, a cloud-powered app that reads documents, understands them, and gives you smart and valuable insights, all done automatically. But before we get there, allow me to tell you a little bit more about myself and take you back to where it all began. So outside of technology, I stay really active. So outside technology, I stay really active. Over the past 2 years, I've had the privilege of being a varsity runner in McKinney High's cross-country and track program. And this year, I had the other privilege of being a first-year cadet in our school's Marine Corps JRTC program. So these two programs have taught me the important values of leadership, discipline, and how to attack challenges head-on, even when they're tough. So like I said, it was last year, my junior year, that I got introduced into the cloud. And I always kept coming back to a bigger question. That question was, what if a computer could not only store a document? What if it could actually understand it the way we do? What if technology could pick up a piece of information and turn it into knowledge instantly? We've all been there, staring at a long document or report, trying to pick out the important parts or summarize it quickly. But what if we could teach the cloud to do that for us? That simple question became the heart of my project and led me to build something I never thought was possible this early on in my career. So for those who weren't here last year, I would like to put something into perspective for you. So last year in ISM, I went through the whole year and I built the backend development for this app. And I know that the term backend development may sound technical, but let me put it into perspective real quick. A backend development is this. When you log into your McKinney SSO account, you enter a username and a password. And then within seconds, the system either lets you in or locks you out. That logic is the backend. It's the invisible brain behind the scenes that makes things work efficiently and securely. So I will show you guys an example of a backend logic. So if you look on the board right here, I have this thing called a const. And what a const is, in JavaScript, it's what creates a variable. A variable is something that stores things. It can store numbers, strings. And you see these two quotation marks right there? That means that this is a string. So already I'm saying that the correct username equals admin, and the correct password equals secure123. That's already preset. So when you first create an account, that's what's in the database and that's what's there and exists. And just for training purposes, I went ahead and created just a variable where a user would enter a username and a password. And this is the logic right here, right? I'm saying if the input username, which is what the user entered, equals the correct username and the password equals the correct password, alert login successful. If not, alert invalid username or password. So that's what the backend does. It's the logic that makes things work. Now, heading back to my presentation, like I said, I built the back end of my product. And the thing about when you build a back end is that it's only available on your local machine, right? Nobody else out there can use it. So I felt like I had some unfinished business. I felt like I had to come back here in ISM this year and build the front end and make them connected securely through APIs. And I want you to think of an API like this. An API is a waitress, all right? So when you go to a restaurant, it's the waitress, you place the order. It's gonna take that request, go all the way to the kitchen and give it to the cook. The cook would prepare that. That's an event in coding terms. The cook prepares it, gives it back to the waitress, and the waitress is gonna walk all the way back out to you and hand you your food. That's how APIs work. I like to say airplanes follow an invisible highway whenever they are over the Atlantic Ocean. That's what APIs are, right? It's the invisible highway that files and messages follow in the cloud so that the front end and the back end can successfully communicate. So the front end is essentially what you guys see, right? Like when you click enter, when you click next, that's the front end, that's the visual appearance. The back end, like I explained earlier, API. And I want to talk about Lambda. So Lambda is an AWS service. It is a serverless framework. So the way Lambda functions work is that you can take little bits of code and put them together to achieve something. And the good thing about Lambdas is that they're very, very, very cheap. I actually don't have this metric up here right now, but last year we had done the calculations of when I had built the backend, it would have cost with traditional servers, right? So somebody doing what I did this year would need to, this year and last year combined, we need to have a space for physical servers. Okay, so if you have physical servers, what you're having now is a cost for maintenance, a cost for electricity, a cost for Wi-Fi. Well, what if you take all that stuff, just put it in the cloud, and let somebody else handle that for you? That's what Lambda's function. That's what AWS does, and Lambda function is the function that I call for my events. And then S3 is my storage. So S3 actually is 99.99999999999% secure. Yeah, it's a lot of nines, and it's that's like I said earlier. It's security was one of my main one of my big points that I wanted to achieve. So as you'll later actually see, when I start talking about the domain is where the website is hosted. And you'll see when I start talking about the domain, you'll see that I actually made a change to come to something called S3 static hosting. And then Amazon Bedrock is the AI, right? It's when you ask a question and it takes in the document and it does the thing, it does the logic to give you the answer. So the first step, like I said earlier, was giving my project a home, creating a domain. So like I said, I was very, very, very adamant about coming back and finishing some business. So over the summer, I actually got started on this project very early. I decided to create my own brand, Cloud Fusion Apps, my own space to build, test, and launch projects that use real cloud services, the same kind that major companies out there do, and they rely on. So at the end of this night, I will, in front of y'all, and a special night for me, launch my project, and you'll be able to use it at cloudfusionapps.com. So what I did with I got a domain registrar, right? There's a lot of them out there, and the one I used was called GoDaddy. And with GoDaddy, you can. So what you do there is that you can you set up a front end. The front end, most of the time, is set up using HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So I'll show you guys what the website looks like later. And now, once I give it a home, I started thinking, okay, now I have a home for it. I built the interface. I made my brand, whatever. Now it's time to connect it to the back end, right? That's like the highlight of the year right there. APIs, if you leave tonight with describing one thing, I'd say it's APIs. It's literally the thing, to me, it's amazing, right? There's nothing without APIs. And I interviewed my uncle, Mr. Orinal, who lives in Chicago, and then we started talking about APIs. And with him, I learned that RESTful APIs was mostly preferable. So what a RESTful API is this. It kind of functions like a Lambda function, right? So a Lambda function is something I forgot to mention earlier that's very important, is that it is event driven. And what that means is, if nobody is on my website at 12 a.m., why am I getting charged for it, right? So Event-driven means that it only launches whenever something happens. Event-driven, an event is what it's called in the coding language. So REST APIs is kind of the same thing. It's at rest until something triggers it. So that's also saves a lot of money for it. And I ended up using API Gateway to make that connection. Like I said, I use API Gateway to connect the website to my AWS backend. Now, my next step was thinking, can the cloud understand, right? I wanted Fusion Logic to understand text, not just extract. So last year, in my backend, I used this AWS service called AWS Textract. And essentially what Textract does, it does OCR, optical character recognition, I'm pretty sure is the definition of it. And what OCR is, when you take a picture of the yellow papers in front of some of y'all right now, the lighting of the room might affect how good it looks. OCR normalizes everything. It makes everything the same font, the same sizes, which makes text extraction more reliable and efficient, right? So, because you don't want to send a document with the wrong information and it will end up returning the wrong response. And then I went with the AWS Bedrock. It has a lot of different models. So I went with Anthropic Claude. Anthropic Claude, the reason why I went with this, and it's a lot of questions that I got from last year, even all the way to this point. People keep asking me. On ChatGPT, you can upload your own document and do exactly what I'm doing. But the reason why I chose to go my way is because Anthropic Claude has a constitution. And such constitution says that every question you ask cannot be let out into the public. The thing about ChatGPT is that every question that you've asked on there, doesn't matter what it is out there. It's in the public, right? They put all that stuff out there. So if somebody really wants to go find it, they can go find it. But Anthropic Claude keeps everything secure and doesn't let out any people's information. And again, like I said earlier, security was a really big point for me. And a challenge is keeping responses accurate, safe, and useful. As you'll see later, I recently decided to work on a grading system and see how efficient it was at grading documents. And there were a lot of mistakes that it was making. But again, it's AI. It's a disclaimer that you can't trust that 100% because it'll never always be 100% right. So, making it safe and real. So last year, I got introduced into IAM permissions. Now, I'm doing things kind of the non-practical way. And how I'm doing it is, whenever I'm making my permissions to the AWS services, I'm giving it full access. Meaning, the S3 bucket where I stored things at, I gave my Lambda function, I gave the S3 full access to trigger the Lambda function. Well, you don't want to give something credibility that it doesn't have access to, right? So like when you log into your McKinney SSO, it doesn't give you access to the grading system, right? It just lets you go to your Canvas and all that different type of stuff. So right now, I'm not 100% secure, right? I am I'm giving it a full access to the different things just for a practical way to get my feet wet. And now that my feet are wet and I was able to produce a viable product, my next step is to look into security. And another way I can make it secure is I build error handling into the API functions. So instead of waiting for my stuff to get all the way back to the Lambda function and then be like, oh, error doesn't work. When you first make an API call, there's a certain logic there that checks if everything is there, right? So if you upload a document, is the document name there? Is your document information, the text, the bytes for it, so it can correctly extract your text. So this is kind of what I had setting up. So I talked about giving it a home and then can the cloud understand it and making them connected. So this CFA represents the brand that I created, Cloud Fusion Apps. And this right here represents API Gateway, and this represents Lambda function. This represents S3 buckets, and this represents Bedrock. So has anybody, I felt like I've defined all of those, but does anybody have a question about any of those right now before I go into the technical details of them? All right, great. Yes, what's up?
What was the last thing again?
Bedrock, that's the AI. Yes, so I set it up in 3 sections. I have an authentication for people to log in, I have the upload, and I have the question area. So authentication goes from Cloud Fusion apps to API gateway. And API gateway then goes into your Lambda function. Lambda function is my backend, right? So essentially what I have set up there is check the email that got sent. Does that user already exist? If not, create a specific user, create a specific folder for that user. If it exists, automatically log them in and let them know that they can start the uploading process. So when that's checked, it moves on to the upload. As you'll see later on, I kind of kept it kind of like step by step. So once you're done logging in, then you can upload, but you can't upload without logging in. So when you log in, you upload a document. It goes API gateway Lambda to S3, where the document will be securely stored. And questioning. So you then type a question into the chat bot, and then you have your API gateway right there that goes to Lambda and Bedrock. Like I said earlier, right? Without API gateway, I mean, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be possible. Every single one of my steps right there has API gateway in the middle of it, which is why I said it was the highlight of the year. Now, before I go into the demo of the app, I kind of want to share with y'all some cool things that I've gotten to learn about software engineering over the year. So when I first started, I was really, really confused, right? I met Mr. McQuarrie at Collin College. We were doing a business symposium, and I saw his sticker, and I walked up to him, and I'm like, hey, I see you have software engineer, like, what do you do, and all that stuff. And we exchanged emails, and we got into working. I walk into the first meeting with him, and he's talking about, he tells me to create an AWS account, he's telling me to do all these stuff, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, what is he saying? Like, all this stuff that he's saying, I'm used to thinking the traditional way, right, of having server and all that stuff. So I'm like, my first question to him is like, how much is this gonna cost? Because I don't work, and like I kind of have to get money from my parents and stuff. So he then goes, well, how about you create your account and let's see if we can get you on a student trial. So we get me on a student trial and we start working the things, and I make my API calls, I make my Lambda function calls. We were using step functions back then. Step functions is like the orchestrator. It's not relevant anymore, you know, I went away from that. But I set all this stuff up, and then we started actually working into the back end. And one of the main things I got to learn was that just like in gROTC or Track, I realized that the key to literally almost anything in life, even building in the cloud, remained always the same to me. It always took purpose, practice, and the willingness to attack the challenges head on. So what ended up happening is we worked through the summer. I had a lot of ideas that I can share with y'all at the end during Q&A time. And I ended up having the opportunity to mentor. I got to mentor a nice gentleman named Mr. Jerome at the back of the room right there. And I've gotten to teach him the stuff that I got taught, right? And again, like I said, the cloud has taught me to do incredible things early on in my engineering career. So as a result of the opportunities that I saw, that I got to teach, I got to experience of it, I said, okay, this is the path I want to go. So I started applying to college and all this different type of stuff, and I came up to the conclusion that I'll be staying at UTD. So I'll be going to UTD next year and studying software engineering. Now, that decision, like I said, was factored a lot by Mr. McQuarrie's help and the opportunities that I see myself having staying here in town working on these products. So next, I want to show y'all the demo. This is demo time for the app. Yes. All right. So does anybody have any questions so far before I get into the demo and kind of show y'all what stuff do? No? Yes.
How long did it take you to like fully develop this? Because you've been talking about like, oh, you started during the summer, but how long including like work hours? I'm asking work hours,
Okay.
not like, oh, it took me like 12 weeks. I want to know work hours.
Hours?
Yeah.
Well, like if I tell you it took me a little over a year.
In hours?
No, in years. I don't know in hours. I didn't keep track of things, man. This is, like, when I get into the things I'm passionate about, I really just start diving into, which is one thing I'll talk about later, was organization, but I'll bring that up later on. So, before we go into the demo, actually, I have an extra thing I want to show y'all. is this right here, right? So Mr. McCurry's like, okay, you came up with this idea, you want to do all that? Go make me a diagram so I can see your thought process. I go, okay. So I make the diagram and I go upload document, right? And then you're going to parse the text, right? You're going to take it from a PDF to a text file. And that text file will be sent to the backend right here, and then your question 1, ask Bedrock response. And you're going to send that question to S3 so I can just kind of log what's happening and I can see how my app is developing. So I kind of made it like this, and you can see for yourself, this is what I made right here. Like, just look at how it looks right now, right? That's just what I want y'all to take away from this. And then I go into a meeting with Mr. McCurry, and we end up with this good table right here called swim lanes. And you can see it's really blurry, but we divide it into the user section, the Lambda section, the Bedrock section, and the S3 section, right? It's not just boxes around the thing. So it taught me a very, very, very important thing that he always said to me was, put your ideas on paper first. Once your idea is on paper, you yourself know what you're talking about and what you're trying to accomplish. As a result of that, the process goes easier. And when he was saying that, I had a flashback to a quote that my dad always says. He goes, how are you supposed to help someone that doesn't want to help themselves? Right? You go into a meeting with that crappy, booty-looking diagram, and you go in the meeting with that bad-looking diagram. How do you expect to effectively communicate with your peers and have them understand what your thought process was? So I really appreciated us spending time in a meeting for this right here. So I promised y'all demo time, so here we go. So this is my website, it's cloudfusionapps.com, right? You come to the home page, you have all this information that you can read, and you go to about CFA. It's a little bit about my story, my mission, and my approach, right? My approach and how I want to take people away from the traditional way and teach them the new, cost-efficient way. Like, over the past 2 years, I've probably spent less than $60 building this app. And with traditional servers, I would have been in the thousands, and I don't have that type of money. So I was definitely big. So I hosted, and I have a top for Fusion Logic. And the name behind the name behind the brand Cloud Fusion Apps comes from this. It's a fusion of different cloud services that make apps. So Cloud Fusion Apps. I was very creative. I'm proud of myself. And the name Fusion Logic is the fusion of the cloud services to do logic, right? It tells you what your documents are and stuff. So before, if you would click on Fusion Logic, the app would, software would automatically show up here. But every time that would happen, I would see that this, if you click up here, it went from a secure site to a non-secure site. And I found myself trying to figure out how to keep it secured. And I started searching things up, and I decided to switch over into S3 static hosting. And essentially what S3 static hosting is that you create an S3 bucket, and you give it the specific type that it will be hosting a single page domain, right? And then you upload your HTML files so that it can know what the front end will look like. So I ended up doing that. So now when you click onto View Prototype, it actually takes you to Fusion Logic. And you can see that now it is a secure website. So this is like I promise y'all, I did not spend a lot of time on the front end. Like I'm not a front end type of guy. I don't care how things look, I just want to get them done. So, which is why I'll also have a Google form out there for you guys to leave in reports and what do you want to call them? Reports to tell me how you guys feel about the layout and how different things should go. So let's do this. Somebody give me a random topic.
Sports.
Sports. What sport?
Basketball.
Thank you. Basketball. What players?
LeBron James.
Yes. All right. Let's look up LeBron James. Hey, so I want to look up on LeBron James PDF. Let me find this one. All right. All right, let's do this one for example real quick. So it is not that long, right? It's only a 4-page PDF, so I'm going to download it. Alright, so you come to Fusion Logic and you need to log in, right? So that's the authentication side of things. So you go ahead and I'm just gonna enter a random email for now, and I'm going to use, actually I'm just gonna use my own email since it's here. ibrahima.gotlectrayor@gmail.com. And when I show y'all the backend, what ends up happening is that the @signs get actually turned into an underscore. So I can keep everything the same. So I log in, and it goes logging in. Right, so that little bit of time y'all saw right there is a cold start, right? I haven't really used this ever since last weekend. So for it to start back up again, it was still really fast. So now I told you I do it step by step. Now the upload document section is available. So I'm going to click choose file, type in LeBron test.pdf, and then click open, and then upload. Alright. Document LeBron James test.pdf, LeBron.pdf uploaded successfully. You can now ask questions about it. Now, this whole time the chat box was locked, and the send was gray. Now it turns blue. You can actually send in information. So I click on ask about your document, and what's a question that we can ask in reference to this document?
How many rings?
All right.
How? How?
All right, so it says, unfortunately, I don't have enough context. So let's go back to the PDF and see if it actually talked about his rings. I'm gonna just type in Control F, championships. CH, it doesn't even show up. So this document probably didn't have any information about his championship ring, so therefore it couldn't find it. But we can see it has born on December 30th, 1984. Let's try that and see if it returns the correct information. When? Unfortunately, I don't have enough information to tell when he. Now, it says he, right? It can't find the context between he and LeBron. So that's the thing about Bedrock. Bedrock wants you to be actually very, 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 very specific to your things, right? Like even Mr. McCurry and I were talking about this, is if you ask a question, the difference between you saying, can you please tell me his age? I mean, when he was born, or when was LeBron born? There's a difference in the way those answers are provided. So it is very, very, very specific on the type of question that it asks. So now I want to try, when was LeBron born? And it says, unfortunately, I definitely the state when LeBron was born, since textbook the information related to his date of birth. So this is all the debugging process, right? So my next step is to think, okay, let me go look at the text extraction and see what happened and see if it got correctly extracted from the PDF to the text file that I was talking to y'all about. So my next step in the debugging process was to come here and click. So here's like most of the services that I use, and I can click on S3 and then go to fusion-logic-users. That's what I named that bucket. And I go to the users folder and I log in with kha.trail@gmail.com. Like I said, the at got replaced with an underscore. So I click on it, and the most recent documents are at the bottom. Click on that, and let's look at the original .pdf and see what that looks like. All right, so that's what the original PDF looked like. So it correctly updated. So this was actually a quiz. Probably why. But if I come here and I look at the extracted.txt, so the extracted.txt is when you extract, what happens with that. So you click here, and I click open. See? So there was an error with the extraction. Therefore, Bedrock was not getting the correct document to provide with you the information. So now, let me try it with the document that does the correct extraction. So, I'll refresh the page. I'll keep every other information the same. Choose file, and let me choose this one. So this is an assignment where I had to write a letter to an upcoming freshman in our AVID class. So let me upload that. And this time, I'm actually going to do what I told y'all. I'm going to try, can you please tell me what this document is about? This document is written by an AVID senior named Ibrahim Trail to an upcoming AVID freshman. He offers advice to the freshmen about how to make. So let me actually open up that PDF for y'all so you guys can see what it contained. Right, so dear AVID freshman, congratulating on beginning your high school. First and sarcastic, AVID seriously. Your AVID journey is just beginning, and I signed off at the bottom. So it did the correct extraction. So this exact time, so let's actually go back here and look at the users. Let's pick the correct user. And the latest documents always go at the bottom. And I click on that, and click on extracted.txt, and it got actually extracted. But even then still, you can see that it has these, I have a pointer because it didn't go black. So you can see that I still have like that right there. There was an error in the extraction, but it's something minor enough for it to still be accurate. Which is why I said the disclaimer at the beginning that it's still AI and that it still makes some mistakes throughout its process. So the next thing I decided to try with it was a grading system. So I gave it questions. Let me pull up the questions real quick. So I gave it this test of these questions, and it kept getting stuck at this question right here. Which element has the atomic number 2? So it was a set of 10 questions, and I purposely got 6 of them correct. And I should have gotten 60%, but it kept telling me I got 70%. It told me that the element with the correct atomic number 2 was hydrogen, but it's not. It's helium. So therefore, I decided to use this as another example to show you guys the deficiencies that AI can have in its process, and why even with ChatGPT, it's not a good thing to 100% trust it with the things it says and does. So that's my project right there that I got done during this year, and And I was gonna open a lot of time for Q&A because I know I talked about a lot of technical stuff. So any question from the process to the how the app is used, it's now open for questions. Yes.
I do have a question. So, first question is, do you plan to make money off this app?
Okay, very important question. So this is how I'm planning to process with this app, right? I have the main way to make monetization of this app is to make people pay, or I can run ads. But I want to keep things ethical. I don't want to have a bunch of ads on my website. So probably in the future, the thing I'm gonna look to do is turn this into an absolute back-end development and only sell it to businesses. So the way that would work is I don't have to worry about the front end, I have a back end. And the business comes to me and it's like, hey, we're trying to find this file storage system, right? Where you can upload a document and then based on what the document is about, it can go store it where it's supposed to go. So this time you wouldn't have the chatting function, it'll be completely automated. So you upload a document and if it's about invoices, take it to the invoice section. If it's about customer receipts or customer complaints, take it to the customer complaint section. So that's how I look to make money about on this product.